The reverse Underground Railroad was the pre-American war practice of kidnapping in free states, not only fugitive slaves, but free blacks as well. The kidnapper would then sell them as slaves receiving rewards once they returned the so-called fugitive. The slave catcher created three methods with catching both the runaway and the free: physical abduction, invigilment or kidnapping by trickery of free blacks, and apprehension of fugitives. The system lasted for 85 years, from 1780 to 1865. It was referenced to the Underground Railroad, in which the network of abolitionists and sympathizers who helped smuggle escaped slaves to freedom, mostly to Canada and Mexico, where slavery was abolished. Oftentimes, they would kidnap free African Americans from southern free states along slave states such as Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, and Missouri, but it certainly didn't stop them from further northern states such as New York, Pennsylvania, and Illinois. The reason why free blacks in New York City and Philadelphia were so vulnerable to kidnapping is because New York had gangs such as the Blackbirders. Blackbirding involves the coercion of people through deception and or kidnapping to work as unpaid for poorly paid laborers in countries distant from their native land. Sometimes this is with the support of policemen and city officials. Black newspapers in Philadelphia would run missing children notices, including one for a 14-year-old daughter of a newspaper editor. One particular person responsible for this egregious act was a white woman by the name of Martha Patty Cannon. From 1811 to 1829, this illegal slave trader was a leader of a gang that kidnapped slaves and freed blacks from the Delmarva Peninsula of Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and the Chesapeake Bay, and then transport them to be sold to plantation owners located further south. You have white men such as John Hart Crenshaw, who was a slave trader from the 1820s to the 1850s, based in Illinois, who was also an associate of a Kentucky lawman and outlaw, James Ford. These two men were kidnapping free blacks in southeastern Illinois and sold them into the slave states of Kentucky. He also was known for breeding slaves and kidnapping free blacks, who was pressed into slavery. Black sailors in southern states also faced threats of kidnapping. South Carolina passed the Negro Seamen Act in 1822, requiring that black sailors be incarcerated while their ships docked. This was due to the idea that black sailors would inspire slave revolts. While in jail, sailors were sold into slavery if their captains did not pay fees resulting from them being in jail or if their freedom papers were lost. White men, such as John Merrill from 1820s to the 1830s, would kidnap slaves from their plantations, promising them freedom, and instead sell them back to the other slave owners. He would also kill slaves who escaped and was later arrested for possessing stolen property. This was a major crime in southern United States. In 1834, he served 10 years in the Tennessee Penitentiary for selling slaves. To prevent these kidnappings, auxiliary organizations such as Abolition Society of Philadelphia was established in 1827 to prevent kidnapping and man-stealing. In January 1837, the New York Vigilance Committee was established because any black person was at risk for being kidnapped. This was reported to protect 335 persons from slavery. Men such as David A. Ruckles, a black newspaper editor and treasurer of the organization, were writing his paper to convince two New York judges to prevent illegal kidnapping, and he was successful in rescuing a young girl named Charity Walker in New York from her captors. It was different preventing kidnapping long before the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Although the Pennsylvania Abolition Society compared records of apprehended blacks to try and free those who were wrongfully detained, they did keep a list of missing persons who was potentially abductees and formed the Committee on Kidnapping. It didn't last long due to expenses. Other means of prevention were established. Free black citizens kept proof of their freedom at all times and avoided strangers in certain areas. Vigilante groups were formed to attack kidnappers, including black kidnappers. One specifically was the man by the name of Constable Samuel Parker Garrigous. He took several trips to southern states to rescue kidnapped children and adults, but he also arrested Captain John Smith, aka Thomas Collin, head of the Johnson Gang, and John Purcell, head of the Paddy Cannon Gang, was also arrested. With this notable history, a book was written and published in 1853 by Solomon Northrop, entitled 12 Years a Slave, a memoir of a kidnapping from New York, detailing how he spent 12 years as a slave in Louisiana. His book, upon release, would sell 30,000 copies. In 2013, a film was made about this event and would go on to win 3 Academy Awards. The Reverse Underground Railroad, another missing piece of American history.